This week is about social communication over the internet, and we'll look a little bit at how the internet is different in certain ways, and some ways in which is the other. So there's two ways we're going to think about this. The second way, which is the video that's posted below, is about micro-targeting of ads, right? So that's using information on your Facebook file to sell you stuff, and that would include political ads during a campaign season, right? That campaigns are going to look and see, oh, well, this person's more likely to be one of our voters, but maybe there's someone who might not turn out, so let's try and target some ads at them to get them to turn out. But we can also think about the way that Facebook and Twitter data determines which posts you'll say, since that uses an algorithm too, right? They think that these posts will be more interesting to you, so they put them up higher in your news feed. One of the other articles you read for this week is really about what drives homogeneous political information. Is it the algorithm or is it the users? It's pretty much both. We will note that the article that you read is by people who work for Facebook saying, well, it's mostly the users. It's not Facebook's algorithm, but it's kind of Facebook's algorithm and kind of the users. Um, and so that's what that video is about. There's also, you'll notice, an audio file, right? Something that you could listen to your car on your drive home, assuming you don't live any further away than St. James. I don't even think it would make it to Port Jefferson. And that's more of my conversation with Jamie Settle. And here we talk about her book more. That's this book here, Frenemies. Why did I say it like that? Frenemies, which is called How Social Media Polarizes America. But in general, it's really about how does social media differ in how we understand information. And she has this framework that she calls END, E-N-D. Uh, and then working from the bottom, D is discussion, right? So that could happen anywhere, but it's a little bit different on social media than in face-to-face personal conversations. N is news expression, news, news gathering, like the news you see. And then E is expression, right? So with expression, what we mean there is um, how you sort of convey your feelings and emotions about politics. Um, she, in the book, in a chapter you're not reading, in fact, you don't read a chapter from this book until just before the midterm, I think, talks about how these end frameworks are different on Facebook than you get in social media. So one of the uh, main ways that expression is different on social media is how, when you express your opinion, maybe you're just saying, oh, I hate the president, or I love the president, whatever you're saying, it's going out there to a wide audience. Okay? Now, you're to some extent going to be aware of that audience, right? If you are a Republican with a lot of Democratic friends, you're probably not going to just open up and say, you know what, I think you've got the president wrong, you're missing some of the points. But you're not going to get to do that, and you wouldn't do that in public, you won't do it on social media. News gathering. News gathering is a little bit different because it's unintentional, right? You log on to Facebook for entertainment purposes, really, and now you're picking up news in your news feed, and that news is being given to you by opinion leaders who are your friends. The gatekeepers on online information are your friends, right? The traditional gatekeepers, when we think about news, are editors, producers. They decide which story is newsworthy and they send it to you. And the values that drive their sort of decisions are sometimes market-based, sometimes based on the sort of view of what's sort of um, important news for the world that's sort of different and whatnot. But things that people, factual things that people need to know to understand the world. Um, on Facebook, you have this sort of mix, right, of the news is the gatekeepers is your friends who are posting, and that's going to be a mix of sort of, oh, I think this is important for people to know, mixed with expression, right? And I feel like you should know, right? So you'll get more posts potentially that say, whether positive or negative, here, have you heard these things about what's going on in politics that make me feel something in a way that you wouldn't necessarily get um, certainly in the A block of the nightly news. Um, and then lastly, the discussion is sort of different because it's not one-on-one, right? It's more like you're having a big dinner table with everybody gathering and talking. Uh, but a lot of these people who are jumping in and out of the conversation aren't that tight, right? You don't see them that much necessarily. They're not sort of intimates. Now, we will note people tend to comment more, as we saw before in a paper that Jamie was an author on, I think. That people tend to comment more on posts by people who they actually are close friends with, but you are getting some of this interaction with people who you're not that closely tied with, what you might call weak tie networks. And here's the idea of a weak tie network. I'm close friends with my friend. I'm close friends with Bill. This is the hypothetical. I'm close friends with Bill. That's pick Bill Clinton. And Bill is close friends with Barack. Let's pick Barack Obama. And but Barack and I don't know one another, right? But interactions will happen within Bill's Facebook feed between Barack and I, even though we're not close. This is called a weak tie network because you have this tie between me and Bill and a tie between Barack and Bill, but there's no tie between me and Barack, right? If we closed off that tie, that's what's known as a strong tie network. Strong tie networks are actually very good at um, coordination and helping people work together. Weak tie networks are actually very good at helping people find jobs. Because Barack will say, "Oh, I need somebody who can do this," and Bill will go, "Hey, go to my friend." That was my Bill Clinton. Go to my friend John. He can do it, and you hire him, and I get my job with Barack through Bill. Anyway, so discussion on Facebook tends to be with these weak tie networks. In person, it tends to be with strong tie networks. And then the other thing, and I can't remember if I kept this in the audio or not, there's an absence of certain social norms on Facebook that you would get sort of in person. And one of the main ones is this sort of thing where you can't send somebody eye contact, give body language to tell people that you're uncomfortable with what they're saying. You have to come out and say to them, hey, this is unacceptable, and that's much more confrontational than most people want to be. And now while her book concentrates on Facebook, I do ask her about other social media platforms, and she said these sort of ideas apply to other social media platforms if we consider what she calls affordances. So be sure in the audio to listen to what those affordances are. So for this week, you watch this video, which you've done since you're at the end. Listen to that podcast sort of thing, 10, 11-minute interview with Jamie, and then watch the 6, 7-minute video, read the articles, post the discussion board if you're scheduled to post the discussion board for this week.